Guys, how's it going, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, and ladies and gents, it is time to cook up another recipe. So get your spices out, get them all ingredients aligned, because we are cooking up Spawn today here in Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. Now, of course, like always, guys, do not forget, if you have your own renditions of this character, don't forget to tweet them at me, or you can go on ahead and tag me on Instagram. In both cases, it's at Blitzwinger, and you can go on ahead and share your versions of the characters with me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. So today we have Spawn, of course, McFarlane's creation of Spawn, and we are trying to add him into the world of Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, and I think I did a pretty good job. All things considered, I think that this is a pretty fantastic take on the character. Of course, we can't have components like the chains all around him, or the key elements like the spikes on his arms, and the arm gauntlets and the legs. But outside of that, tiny little details that we're missing, I think we did a pretty good job with this character. So of course, as you can see, he's got his guns here. He's got a pretty solid flame attack as well, which is really cool. I did manage to give him some chains by giving him the web sling ability, so that gives him some chains, as you can see. And I think that that does look pretty cool, but we also do need to, of course, run through the recipe itself. So for that, we're going to head over to the customizer, of course, and we're going to run through the character as we put him together. So, oh, there he is. Whoops. Spawn. All right, so let's go to appearance and work our way from top to bottom. So we'll start with hair. Obviously, no hair pieces attached here at all. Same thing is for the helmets, so I did not use any. Now, you could, in this particular scenario, if you want, you could obviously try and mess around with some of the helmets. Like if you would, I don't know necessarily why you would want to do that, but if you want to do some different looks, like the only ones that kind of make sense to me is maybe this one, just to kind of give him a little bit of a more intriguing looking shape for his head. So you could do that. It does look pretty cool. Same thing with the more front piece. It looks all right. And then if you want, I guess in theory, you could use that one too to elongate the size of his head. So that's really up to you. But for me personally, I just think that it looks best the way that it currently is. So as far as the headpiece, well, I chose the Scarlet Spider. I know that a lot of people who tend to do these designs and everything like that, they use this one right here, which is the symbiote one. I don't particularly like it for this Spawn design. And the main reason for that is because the eyes don't have an actual stroke around them, whereas the eyes on here, as you can see, they have that black outline around the eye. And even though we changed the head to be black, that outline is a darker shade or more concentrated shade of black, so therefore it actually does stand out. So I think that that is the best, absolute best way to go for a Spawn face. Now, from there, we're going to go on ahead and transition to the neck piece. No neck piece is attached there at all. Same thing for the actual attachment. Now, this is actually an interesting one because you could, in theory, I guess, use maybe these shoulder pads, which wouldn't look the worst. I don't know if they actually would work with the cape. They would not. At least not with that. Well, I mean, they sort of work with the cape. You see, it starts to look like a bit of a mess, honestly. So, for me, I guess if you used maybe that attachment, and then if you want, you could use a traditional cape and try to make that look a bit more intriguing like that. But for me personally, I like to go with no attachments because I just think it looks better, and then use the big giant crazy cape that actually has two different colors. So you got the red on the interior and then the black on the exterior, because I think it creates a nice dynamic for colors. Now, outside of that, let's get back on tasks, or on the task at hand. For the hands, just black gloves, so no particular fancy detail there. The body that I chose was the Black Bolt body. You could use several different torsos for this. There really are several options available to you. The reason why I chose the Black Bolt body is because usually Spawn has this kind of like V-like pattern across the chest, so that somewhat emulates it. Of course, it's a bit more rigid and goes in and out instead of just being smooth lines, but I think that that's a pretty good compromise, all things considered. You could use the Agent Venom body, and I think that that does work quite well as well, especially because Todd McFarlane, of course, drew Spider-Man for so many years, so it's kind of cool to design Spawn with a Spider-Man body. So I think that there's a little bit of a connection there, which is really cool. Of course, as I said before, you could use the Black Bolt torso for this task, which is what I personally prefer to utilize, but Again, it might be something that you'd pick and choose to your liking. You could use the Inferno torso. Now, the problem with the Inferno torso is it doesn't have any white details to it, so outside of like the musculature and everything, but that's gray. But it does work really well because of the red, so I think that that's another solid option. For me, though, I'm going to go on ahead and stick to the Black Bolt torso just because I think that that works the best out of the entire bunch. And then for the arms, well, the arms was one of the more difficult ones to decide on because at first I was like, I'm just going to make them all black or maybe all red and so on and so forth. But then I noticed this one right here, and then when I looked at a bunch of images of Spawn, I was like, hey, he does have kind of a transition where the gauntlet around his arm is usually red. So I was like, this is actually perfect because you've got the black shoulder, and then it transitions into about at the elbow point, it transitions into some red, emulating those gauntlets. Now, of course, technically those gauntlets should have some sort of like maybe a pattern like that on them that looks like studs because he has these like metal spikes sticking out of his gauntlets. I can't get it to be that specific, of course, so I think that this is a pretty nice compromise, and it gives us a very good-looking Spawn. So, from there, let's transition to the hips. The hips, honestly, I spent a bunch of time trying out different pieces. I was like, this, that, or the other. Lots and lots of different pieces, but I came to the conclusion that it's just best to just go with the plain black. It transitions the best into the legs, and it just doesn't create any type of, like, weird look for the character. So that's what I personally chose. But again, if you want to get super finicky and specific with it, that's the nice thing about these is that just like a cooking show, that's why I called it recipe, you can adjust the ingredients. You're like, hey, I don't like that ingredient, so I'm going to replace it and throw that over there. So that's why I want to see your final results as well. So don't forget, again, tweet me, Instagram, tag, just so that I could see all of your awesome creations. So with that in mind, let's transition to the final piece of the puzzle, and that is the legs, and that will be Adam Warlock. Once again, same exact logic as it was with the arms. You want to have the nice transition from black into the red boots that would, again, typically have studs on them and like spikes and so on and so forth, and this was the absolute best option for this particular task. Again, there are some other variations of that type of coloring, like there, you could bring in a bit more red with Daredevil Noir, or you could flip that on its head and go red into black. As soon as I did that, I feel like it just does not look accurate at all. So that's why, for me personally, the Adam Warlock leg piece is the absolute no-brainer in this particular case. So from there, abilities-wise, I am not particularly well-knowledged on Spawn, so I kind of went with more of the safer choices and didn't go like super-duper crazy with what he's able to do. Tapping, I gave him the bolt ability, so you can use the weapon, of course, that he's holding, and a targeted lunge, because I think that's pretty appropriate. I don't know why I just got a notification there. Usually I have them turned off. Then you've got fighting on the circle button, which is pretty rare, and of course I gave him that flaming beam as well. Then for the double tap, as I pointed out right at the beginning when I was showing the character, we have web swinging, which is pretty awesome, and again, it makes sense for the character because he oftentimes uses chains to like attack and such, so I think that that works for the character design that we're going for. I didn't even know you could look at the character from down below like that. That's actually cool. How far above can we look? Whoa, that's neat. That's a cool design. I if I'm giving myself credit. Okay. No hyper jump because I don't know, I just didn't feel like it would be appropriate for him. I did give him a gun, the pistol there, so he's holding that. Dual wielding, of course, and as far as color choice, I went with the top right there, just because I feel like these ones down here are like too light. This one's an alright option, but I don't know, I just feel like these top colors are supposed to be kind of like metallic-y, and I think that they look the best for what we're trying to look for. Passive traits, we have the health icon is red. I felt like it'd be appropriate for Spawn. He's mostly red and black, so it kind of makes sense. I gave him invulnerable health. Voice doesn't matter, I usually don't even look at that. Fast speed, and then the target reticle, again, red and black. That's the motif that we're going for this character, so it only made sense. Miscellaneous, of course, just the name, and placed him on a darkish kind of background because he's usually involved in much more serious storylines, let's put it that way. So with that all in mind, ladies and gents, that is my take on Spawn. That is my recipe for Spawn. I hope you guys enjoyed this particular episode. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button. But in addition to that, as I said before, I want to hear your opinions and thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you like this character? Do you not like this character? Or my take on this character, I should say, not just the character itself. And then in addition to that, please let me know what other recipe you would like to see cooked up on the next episode. Of course, like always, do not forget, guys, have an absolutely fantastic day. I will hopefully catch each and every single one of you lovely, lovely, lovely folks here next time. And like always, have an absolutely glorious day. Peace out. I'll see you later, alligators. Oh, and don't forget, again, Twitter, Instagram, all that. Send me your messages because I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what you guys came up with. I got some really cool submissions for Cable, so good job on that.